Hello everyone and welcome back to my dream world. So, I was finally able to get all of my Dragons Rising Season 3 Part 1 reactions up, so if you haven't watched those, please feel free to watch them before or after this video. But before I continue, I just want to relay that I have seen the leaked Part 2 episodes of Dragons Rising Season 3 because I didn't want to get spoiled, so I just wanted to go ahead and watch it in case something started coming out. But out of respect for the writers, I will not be discussing Part 2 in this video very much, if at all, and I will not be releasing my reactions to these videos until the season officially airs. So, for this video specifically, I'm going to discuss what I believe to be the strengths and weaknesses of the season, what it set up for part 2, assuming that we don't know what part 2 consists of, and then I will talk about my overall opinion of the season so far. So without further ado, I'm gonna hop right into the video. So of course, if you've seen my reactions or my previous videos, you'll know that I was very happy to see Pixel back. I know a lot of people don't really think that Pixel's that important of a character, and I can see, like, I get it. I know, like, the writing has been inconsistent in some ways, but Pixane is my favorite couple, so I was really happy to see her back, and they had some really cute moments. I do have kind of mixed feelings about that episode, which I will get into, but I was just really, really happy to see her back, see her with Zane, and have some cute moments with them throughout the season. And then, of course, there was also the Moro cameo. And I just want to say I was so happy with this. As somebody who was a Moro glazer, which is a little embarrassing to admit, but also still a Moro fan, I was worried. Because people have been begging for Moro to come back for years now. Like, when's he going to come back? And I was actually in the crowd of someone who was thinking, he ended things well in Day of the Departed. Can we just please leave it at that? Like, I know we don't really love that special in the fandom overall, but if there's one thing it did right, I think Moro finished his story well there. So I was like, please don't bring him back and mess it up like they have done with certain villains, which I will continue to discuss as I talk about this series. But I was just really like, please do not bring Moro back only to completely botch him. But I was pleasantly surprised. So pleasantly surprised. I think the role he played was perfect. He didn't really take up too much of the spotlight. He had a really nice role in helping Eren and taking place in the merged realms that are now existing in Ninjago, as in the spectral lands where he resides. Of course, there was that kind of like moment at the end when Thunderfang swallows him up whole and eats him, but otherwise I think the role that he played, it was perfect. It didn't mess him up. It didn't really give him any room to take away too much spotlight, but also gave him a little bit of a chance to shine and for us to see how he has developed. And he's kind of like in the process of doing a penance because of all of the bad deeds that he did in the living and after he died, initially in possession. And yeah, I was just super happy with the way his cameo worked. But the main things that really stood out to me about this season, and this is aside from visuals and, you know, all of that kind of stuff, because that in Dragons Rising as a whole has been astounding, but the biggest highlight of the season for me has been Eren. Eren and his internal conflict regarding Roz and the ninja, and then eventually his relationship with Sora. I thought that it was fantastically handled in this first part of the season. I love that throughout the entire thing, he is conflicted. Because a lot of people, when at the end of part 2 he went with Roz, they were like, oh great, Eren's evil now. No, he's not. He's not evil. He is going towards the goal that he always has had, to find his parents. That's always been his goal. And now he believes that Roz is the only way that he will be able to find and eventually bring back his parents after he finds out that they have seemingly died. So it makes sense that he would go after Roz. Like, that's been his mission the whole time. Yes, the ninja were his heroes, but Roz is actually the one who can potentially get him what he wants. We don't know if that's true or not, but you get my point. Eren thus he follows his own path, and it's understandable because he's like, this is the only way I'm going to be able to get what I want. So I'm going to leave, even though I don't want to. Like he definitely still has love for the ninja. The only person that he really does not like is Master Wu, and that's because we've been told he caused the merge. He even seemingly admitted to it in part 2 of season 2. So yeah, Eren's like, I don't like Master Wu, but he repeatedly stands up for the ninja throughout the season. Like, Roz talks a lot of mess about them and is like, yeah, well, they're cowards and they, what nothing comes out of being a hero. But Eren's like, no, I disagree with that. And even if he's not able to go, shut up, Roz, he does kind of stand up for them as much as he can. So that shows me, like, yes, he's conflicted. And he wants to go back and become a ninja. Like, he still has that desire, but he just doesn't believe that he's capable of doing so. And that kind of ties in his relationship with Sora. I'll discuss this later, but I absolutely loved episode 8, where we see how they came together, flashbacks of them as children, and then like coming into where we see them now. And then eventually in episode 9, when he's talking to her and he tells her, like, it's just been very heartbreaking for me to not be good at what I wanted to be so good at, what my heroes have done. Like, I wanted to be like them and I'm just not getting there. And the only way that I did get there is through Roz. I've improved, I've gotten stronger. And that also ties in more conflict for him because he's like, yeah, I know Roz is bad, but he helped me. So it's kind of a tough point for me right now. But Sora's kind of able to be like, the strength that you bring to the team is so crucial for me and for everyone else. I mean, I don't know if I would be able to get through final battles as easily as they did if I didn't eat pie. So I understand where they're coming. Like, I do really like how he's like, I just don't feel right on this team because I'm not contributing enough. But Sora's able to kind of be like, Eren, you have contributed so much to this team. Everybody misses you. We want you back. But he still is hyper fixated on getting his parents back, which is completely understandable. So at the end of the season, he chooses to continue going off with Roz, and at this time, Sora joins him, not because she suddenly wants to join Roz, but she's like, no, that's my best friend. That means I have to be by his side. And that's why I know some people have found her annoying, but I really love Sora. I think her character, like, she makes decisions that align with her character consistently, and I'm really happy that she did end up going with Eren and Roz, and that the team seemingly understands. Like, Lloyd isn't, he does have moments where he's like, I don't want to spoil it, but you can tell he's not happy with that outcome, but he also understands. He's like, they are best friends, they need to be together now. And that leads into a very interesting dynamic for part 2, which is why I'm going to leave it at that. But throughout the season, I just thought Eren was handled so fantastically in his dynamic with Sora, dynamic with Roz, who was continuing to be a fantastic villain, by the way. And it just really sets up a lot for part 2, and it pays off so well. But because I'm not getting into part 2, I'm going to leave it at that. Now I'm going to kind of tackle some of the weaknesses or dislikes that I have, some things that my gripes with the season per se. Of course, if you've seen my videos, you would know that I am a Cole stan. So I am very sad that he only had literally 10 lines. I thought people were exaggerating about that on Reddit, like, oh, Cole only had 10 lines. But yeah, he basically did. Of course, because he's my favorite, that's going to make me kind of sad, but this isn't necessarily a weakness. It was just kind of like, oh man, I wish I could have seen a little more. I wish he joined in during the final battle, but I guess that just wasn't in the writer's plan. But of the things that very much irritated me, I'm going to start with the fake out deaths. I hate Zane's umpteenth fake out death. It really ruined that episode for me, honestly, because if you see my reaction to it, I was tearing up. Like, I was so happy to have Pixane back. I was really excited to see them kind of go through an action sequence, but no, we had to end it with another fake out death for Zane. They literally don't, I'm going to get into Zayn specifically, but they also kind of do it with Lloyd. Lloyd dies for like 10 seconds at the end of the final battle and then just like reawakens when Aaron takes down Thunderfang with the soul syrup. I forgot what that was called off the top of my head, but y'all know what I'm talking about. It was just, it takes away from it for me. Like, if you're gonna do a fake out death or like a coma type thing, you need to have it prolong and have a little bit more stakes, because Zayn is literally like fixed and upgraded per se the next episode and for the rest of the season, and Lloyd literally wakes up within 10 minutes, if not less. Actually, I think less, actually. I'll have to recount that. But yeah, I did not love the fake out deaths. The Forbidden Five were a huge disappointment to me. In my opinion, none of them felt very compelling to me. And we only really have Knocked from season 2 to go off of. I mean, there's a little bit of Rocks too, but I just didn't really find myself connecting to them at all. I didn't find them interesting to watch. They weren't really interesting to watch fight either, because we only really get expansion on Kerr's powers and Drix's powers, and even then, not so much. Drix was the only one that really posed a threat, and I hate bugs, so I hate watching him, even though he is actually kind of cool when he fights. But yeah, and of course Zark was a huge disappointment. I was sad because I thought his hat looked like a bell, and for some reason that made me happy. So I wanted him to be my favorite, and he just completely... He was a fraud, as everyone is saying. He was really... Yeah. I just did not love the way the Forbidden Five was handled. We could have had so much backstory for them. They were hyped up to be so powerful and such a demanding threat that I expected a lot more from them. And it was just, it felt like a letdown. And in a way, this actually took away from Thunderfang, who is the big bad of this season. At least that's how it seems. Because Thunderfang, is plotting to kind of take them and use them as his minions, of course, from the very start. But we didn't really get as much backstory on Thunderfang either, and the final battle, we only really get one episode with him actually freed, at least for now. There's still part 2, but it's just kind of like, I feel like both ended up being undeveloped, and that was disappointing for me. So far, and I've said this before, Roz is by far the most compelling villain in this series, and you will not change my mind. You can see in my reaction videos that I kind of like am trash talking Roz, but that means he's a good villain. That means he has me invested in him enough to make jokes about him and deprecate on him. But yeah, the Forbidden Five, I'm just kind of like, come on. Like, that you could, they had such cool designs and concepts. I really just feel like their execution could have been stronger. Speaking of which, and this kind of ties in, I just think the pacing was overall pretty weak. The finale felt quite rushed. I mean, we have like the penultimate episode where it kind of leads up to the finale, but they didn't really have that cool of a showdown with the Forbidden Five, and it quickly just goes into Thunderfang being like, oh, I'm awake now. And the first few episodes took a little while to ramp up, at least for me. I think that episode 8 kind of saved Aaron's big finale moment for me, because that was a very beautiful moment. I did enjoy that, like his big moment of taking down Thunderfang, at least for now. But yeah, I just felt like it was a little sluggish in the beginning, and that made it feel a little bit rushed at the end, even though it wasn't badly executed at all. But that was one issue, because I was kind of like, well, why am I not feeling like this is amping up? Because usually when I react to Ninjago, I keep getting more and more hyped, but this time I was kind of just like, okay, where is this going? Somebody said, like, I felt like it lacked direction, and I have to very much strongly agree with that comment. I also feel like the tone and the dialogue was a little bit too inconsistent than, like, with the fake out deaths, and the humor was kind of like, it just wasn't for me. And of course, I am disappointed in Zayn's writing. It was not good, and that makes me so sad, because if you've seen my videos and stuff, Zayn in seasons 1 through 3 was my favorite ninja, even over Colt. Like, he was my number 1 all-time favorite, adored him, and he just hasn't been the same since. And like, there are theories about why that is, but it's just very disappointing to me. He could have had a lot of cool moments in the season, and he just didn't. I still love his moments with Pixel, but I was very sad about that, especially since he was kind of prompted to be the mascot character, at least of the main Six Ninja, but I didn't see that, and that was just disappointing. Other reviews have said this, I agree. There was a lot of lack of direction apart from Eren, Roz, and eventually Sora's arc. That's a huge problem because at this point, we're in season 3. We had season 1, we had season 2. Season 3, we need to start really getting into these deeper storylines. There are so many things that have been brought up but haven't been tackled yet. And that, to me, it is a problem because then people forget about them and are like, wait, what was that again? Wait, how is this tied in again? And that kind of, like, an example of this is there were the Dragonians, were introduced to them, but they're very unexplored. We kind of just walk through and then they go bad. And then they kind of like reform at the end, but we're just kind of like, oh, okay. Now what? Like, when it comes to them. So yeah, that's like biggest problem with this season was pacing and lack of direction. However, I'm gonna also kind of touch on things that we can be anticipating for the next part of the season, assuming you haven't seen it yet, and other things. So, of course, there was the reveal at the end that I low-key called because I kind of saw where this was going, but Eren's parents are alive, at least according to Jay, who worked at the administration. So obviously, it's kind of like like they were dead, or we thought they were dead, but they're alive. I called it, but I was still kind of like, yo, I was right. That is awesome. And then of course we have Jay, who joined the final battle kind of unwillingly. He kind of just got caught in the crossfire and was like, well, dang, I guess I gotta fight. And he gets injured, so he ends up at the monastery because of his injury. He still has amnesia. So that makes for an interesting dynamic. Here's the thing, a lot of people were like, Jay's evil. Again, I don't really see him as pure evil. He's kind of more of a vigilante at this point because we'll see in part 2. But, we don't really see much of him in this part 1, but from what we see, I love it. And I am looking forward to, I'm pretending like I haven't seen part 2, but at the end of the season was like, I'm so looking forward to seeing what he does with his character. And of course, we've got the dragon icons. Remember, Lloyd has one, Roz has one, and is going after a second one. So that's kind of what's established very strongly. We've kind of have hints and pieces of it in other places about the dragon that was trapped in Imperium and stuff like that. But yeah. And then Roz just in general. So like they are really having Roz be a slow burn. And there are pros and cons to that, but we are still it makes him such an anticipating character because we're looking forward to, like, who is Roz's master? What really is his plan? How is he really trying to undo the merge, which he reveals that he wants to do to Eren? And yeah, he's just, like, there's so much to look forward to because of his character, even with just part 1. And, of course, the Dragonians. But that was just those are just some things that they have set up that I'm really looking forward to see how they follow through the rest of this season and in future seasons. But yeah, I'll get into my overall opinion. I will say, I don't feel like it's fair for me to judge the season as a whole since we only had the first half. So I'm not gonna rank it, but I do have to say I'm gonna have to rewatch season 1 of Dragon's Rising. But I do feel like I preferred season 1 part 1 and season 2 part 1 better. To be perfectly honest. They've set up some very intriguing stuff. I just feel like now that we're 3 seasons in or 5 acts in, if that's how you want to think about it, there's still just way too much exposition that we're going through, and we took too long to get to the juicy bits of the season, and then it just felt rushed. That could have been because I binged the season, so I didn't have time to sit on it. But I feel like we still have more questions than we do answers, and there are plots that, as of part one, have not been explored. Cole's Master Wu thing, we barely touched on Jay. I initially, and like after editing my reaction videos, I think I was a little too harsh on it at first, but I did feel a little bit underwhelmed after watching the season. I was kind of like, ooh, I feel like I felt stronger about the others. But this also just speaks to how strong the other two seasons are. Maybe my expectations are just a bit too high. Maybe it would improve in part two. I don't know. I just felt like the dialogue was weaker. There was a lot of exposition that we hear over and over again. So the structure was just not my favorite. There were also just a lot of decisions I straight up didn't like Zayn's fake out death, attempting to be all emotional when it's the bajillionth time that they've done this. But Aaron's arc and Sora's development, along with the backstory, was really, really good. It tied together so nicely for me. I also genuinely did start to tear up multiple times throughout this season, so clearly it had an emotional impact on me. I still enjoyed it. Even with all my critiques, I still very much enjoyed this season. I'm looking forward to part two, assuming I haven't watched it yet. Let's just say I'm looking forward to seeing how part two wraps up. But it didn't give me the same feeling as I felt at the end of season 1 and 2's first parts, respectfully. But with just part one, I have it now as kind of like a high B tier with the potential to move up as the second season's half is released. Definitely not bad. I just thought there was a lack of direction, which a lot of people pointed out. So much was set up from season 2, and it just didn't completely follow through quite as much as I wanted it to. But Aaron's payoff was very, very well done. Of course, this wouldn't be a proper review video if I didn't go through my highlights. I have to say my favorite episode was easily episode 8, Crashing Together. That was a fantastic episode. And you would expect me to say my favorite character of this season was definitely Aaron, followed by Sora and Roz. I do want to give a quick part 2 sneak peek, no spoilers. This part, as of now, as of the episodes that were leaked, so the final 2 I have not seen, obviously, it would move the season up to A tier easily, possibly with potential of going up to S depending on how the finale ends up. Pacing was much better. I loved what they did with Jay and with Aaron. Somebody on Reddit did also point out that we have a little bit of a pattern here. We went from a tournament style season to spirity ghost style season. I just noticed that, and honestly, I don't know how to feel about it, but part 2, and I'll have to rewatch the other seasons just to be sure, but I think part 2 of this season may be my favorite part of Dragons Rising so far. However, I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil it, and I do plan on rewatching everything before season 3 part 2 is released and then do a full ranking after that. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of the season. If you disagree with me, that is totally cool. All I ask is that you are kind in the comments because ain't nobody got time for more negativity in this world. But that being said, my next focus is going to be back on my Nostalgia Trip series where I rewatch and review not just Ninjago, but also all other shows and movies. But the next one I'm going to tackle is the oh-so-polarizing Skybound. So please stay tuned for that and keep an eye out on my casual channel for edits and less analysis style videos. I'm going to be doing edits and rankings and just kind of silly videos over there. So definitely check that out. But yeah, thank you for watching. Check out my reaction videos of this season if you're curious, and I will see you all next time. Bye!